All right. So it's 9:01 and we're going to go ahead and kick off. Just to match one of our WPL philosophies, we get started on time. So we're going to do that tonight too. Thanks so much for showing up. I appreciate everybody showing an interest in what we're doing. And I'm super happy to talk about the program. For those of you who don't really know me, I'm Amanda Cox, and I have been working with the WPL since 2018. In 2018, Richard Every was match official manager, and he just put me in charge of a pilot program to run a referee group for the WPL, similar to what we were doing in MLR at that time. So at that time, Richard was match official manager for the MLR referee group. And so then we just mirrored the WPL on that. Yeah, so that's how I got to here. And so it seems like it would be more, but I think this is my third full year because of COVID, the third full season that I've done the league. So whenever you want, just stop me and ask questions. I didn't really know how to build this. There've been a lot of different questions all across the board. So I'm just going to start talking about the league, and we'll start at the beginning and we'll end at the end and interrupt with questions at any point. I'm also going to share my screen here. Let's see. All right, hopefully we should see.
Yep, we can see your screen.
Super. Let's play this from the current slide. You would think as much as I do this, I'd be faster at it, but it's just not the case. So thanks for bearing with me. All right, so WPL Referee Group. This is a great picture of our crew from the 2019 season, I guess. So I love this picture because it really shows what we're trying to do, which is create a team. And this is our group at Nationals with their jerseys after a jersey presentation that we did. And the jersey presentation was a suggestion by Jenny Liu, who's one of our members. And it really went over really well and everybody enjoyed that. So something to consider. If you don't know anything about the WPL, I'll just tell you, they started in 2009, I believe. So they had their 10-year anniversary and then we had COVID. And I'm thinking this is probably the 11th year of the league now because of the COVID break. And then there are 10 teams. They play 4 matches a weekend over 10 weeks. So it provides a unique opportunity for referees to come in and do similar type games kind of week after week. So what we do is we use a small number of match officials, and 9 in total, and then they'll cover all 40 of those games and the finals. Any questions about the structure of the league? Also, I should say the WPL is the top women's competition in the nation, for those of you who don't know. Anybody have a question about kind of the league or what that looks like? Cool. So one of our big things that we try to push is collaboration between the referees and the WPL, the coaches. When the season started, I had a set of agreed upon standards between myself and the league, and I created a set of videos that were released this year, so everybody knew what we were trying to achieve. We may not always do it, but everybody's on the same page with what the game should look like. The coaches, as far as the collaboration, team coaches know they are welcome to talk to the referees pre-match. I have referees who handle that differently. Some of them reach out to the coaches a couple of days prior. Some of them prefer to just wait until they're at the game. Coaches know they can call me anytime. They can send an email anytime. They can text. I am at their beck and call if there's a question about anything related to refereeing or related to the game. If they see something somewhere and they want to know if it's legal or not legal, I'm available to answer those questions. We do review calls once a week. Coaches are all invited to those calls. That is new this year. Previously, they were just sent notes from the meeting. So this is the first year they're invited to the meeting itself. We've had maybe 4 or 5 coaches pop up, and they usually only pop up on the meetings when there's been an issue in their match. The platform's been very respectful, and we haven't had any issues with that. And I definitely think we will move forward with that next year as well, inviting the coaches to the call. And then the last piece of collaboration really between the team coaches and our group is the call notes, which I referred to earlier, that I distribute to the group. There's a folder with clips that the coaches have access to, so they can see everything we did in the meetings. And then they can actually watch the video of the call too, since some of them are at practice. That's easiest for them. Yeah, so that's about it. Any questions about collaboration between our group and the league? I'm sure it's going to come up more, and I'm going to tell you more about it. But that's kind of what we are pinning everything on, is that by working together as a team with the coaches and the refs, we can create a better product for the league. Okay. So that just leads us into the overarching philosophy of our group, which really our job as match officials is to ensure that the WPL matches prepare players for the international stage. So are they seeing a type of rugby week in and week out, which prepares them to go and play for the women's national team? We hope that they are. And my role then is to facilitate the match officials, the planning, the organization, and education, so that we are creating the product that looks like what's going on the international stage. And ultimately, I'm accountable to the league and to the coaches when there's a problem and we're not doing what we said we're going to do. Any questions about that philosophy? Okay. One of the questions that comes up a lot is people want to know about the refs. How do we pick them and who made the team this year? The WPL is geographically all across the nation. I should have mentioned that. And so one of the things we look for are refs who live near home teams. That helps us keep our budget down. So this year we've got Dan, he lives near the Minnesota team. Marty's in New York, Jenny's in Boston, Brian is in Atlanta, Chris is in Denver, Andrew has Life West and Berkeley, so over there in California. Haley Aguiar's up near the Orsu team. And Shanda joins us from Canada. She's actually like, I would say she's an exchange referee. It's a partnership between the USA and Canada. Canada sponsors her. So the WPL does not pay for her travel. Canada pays for her travel. And then Emily Shea is my only ref currently involved who does not have a team she can drive into. So with that said, then across the 40 matches, each referee will only do their home team twice, because part of the league structure is we want the teams exposed to as many referees as possible. So if you saw your home ref 4 times, you would be missing out on maybe getting the ref you may get in the finals, because the same group of refs will do the finals. So basically then I just take a big matrix and, pivot tables and try to figure out how to make the maximum, each team see the maximum number of referees and fit it into the budget so people aren't flying across the country every week. It sort of works. And I think we're going to come in at budget this year, so that's a win. Any questions? Oh, and I should say the refs also, not just geographically, but they're chosen this year. In previous years, there was an application process. In this year, they were just selected. USA Rugby has identified the top 100 referees in the United States. And so the refs were chosen. The tier 1 referees were mostly lost to me. They were almost all of the tier 1 referees in the United States are refereeing for MLR or ARing for MLR every weekend. So the majority of our refs came from the tier 2, and I think we have one tier 3 referee. So those, just to put that there. So any questions about the refs and the selection process? Okay. Sorry if you hear my kids in the background, they're here. And then the WPL reviewer team. Sorry, does someone have a question?
Yeah, I just noted Ozzy has a question about the ARs. Are they
Okay.
locally assigned?
Yes, we do use local ARs, and they are assigned by the local society. So that is something that we've identified as like a work on for the future, that we would like to be able to have the same ARs week after week. But at the moment, the home team is responsible for providing ARs, and they just go directly to their local society and get who they get. Some local societies are really good and assign higher level ARs, and sometimes you get whoever's not reffing or is brand new. So we don't have a lot of input into who the ARs are or what their skill level is yet. But we're happy just to have ARs, to tell you the truth. Any other questions? Yeah, so this is our review team. So every single match that is done is then gets a review. I probably recognize most of the faces, but I do try to get reviewers from all across the country. So we're getting a taste of everything, and philosophies can sort of trickle down or trickle out. Wendy's from Texas, Bob's in the DC area, Olivia's in Michigan, Peter's in New England, Rosalind's in New York, and Lee's over in California. I don't really know where in California, but she's there, state. So we all work together to do the reviews. Okay, so the big thing about our crew and what we are trying to do is, I really believe that one of the things that was missing when I was coming up through the refereeing ranks was that feeling of safety. And you would go to places and being wrong was, you were just the subject of ridicule. So I've tried to change that, and our group strives to be a supportive and caring community. I want the members to feel comfortable speaking up and asking questions on the calls. We really go back to that kindergarten philosophy: no question is a dumb question. And in refereeing, I really believe that the law is hard, and refereeing is very, very hard. So on this page is a word cloud that the group created in 2019, and they were asked to just put in 2 words about what the WPL group meant to them. And this is probably one of my most favorite pieces of artwork ever created. I come back to it when I need a little bit of motivation, because it reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. So questions about the culture of the team? Cool. Okay, so it's nice to have like a frou-frou idea behind what we're doing, but then there are house rules and, I guess, things that I live by. So agency is really important. And that's the idea that each referee in the group is ultimately responsible for their own career. I am not going to micromanage anybody. I cannot stand having to ask people 10 times for something. But the referees have agency. They all have their own coaches, and how they work with, they have coaches assigned by USA Rugby because they're tier 1 and tier 2 refs. But then how they work with that coach, whether they do their performance planning or their deliberate practice, I'm not getting involved in that. I feel like if I've told you once or twice and you decide not to do it, that's on you, right? The next thing that I really subscribe to is team feedback. So after every call, the group gets a quick 3-question survey, which I can show you what that looks like. But it's amazing what comes back on those surveys. It's really brilliant. Secondly, the next thing is self-awareness. So we ask everybody to pay attention to themselves and their behavior on the calls. We like for everybody to introduce themselves when they speak. So if I was speaking and, somebody wanted to come in, they would be like, this is Marty, blah, 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 and whatever he has to say. We think it's important that we have awareness to how much space we take up in the group and how much time we are using to say things. We really strive for brevity and not to repeat what someone else in the group has just said. We also believe refs should speak first. So we have had calls where the coaches barely talk at all. That's very different than when I started in 2018. It's something that we've morphed into, and I think it's working very well. And then use emojis. So we thumbs up, we use our smiley faces and whatnot all throughout so that we don't have to say, hey, I agree, or just reiterate what someone else has said. Rugby specific phrasing. So when we talk, we use rugby language, we're in goal, we're in touch, that kind of thing. Gender neutral language, that's new this year. It's super important for the WPL to make everyone aware that they are welcome to play in the WPL. And so we as match officials, we work for the WPL. Also, I personally believe that is true. So one of the things I brought to the first meeting was, hey, y'all, I'm working on gender neutral language. Do you guys want to work on that with me? Feedback from the team was great. So, instead of saying women or ladies, we say the players or the athletes, and we refer to people as they rather than she whenever we can. It's a work in progress. We don't always get it right, but we are working on it. And the last thing really about our team is the growth mindset. So it is tough to sit in the call and talk about the mistakes that you made. And a lot of times we have a tendency to get down on ourselves. So we try to redirect that. It's an opportunity for improvement. So, questions about any of those house rules?
Amanda, is there a general neutral way for the players to address the refs yet?
Not that I'm aware of, but referee works, and also just somebody's name would work. I'm sure, I feel like I've seen an entire thread online about this particular subject, but would any referee on the call like to speak up or have a preference?
I guess sir just comes natural to people.
I think it does. It's probably
ref,
also.
ref isn't bad. Name is problematic, I think.
Why is that?
It's a longer conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. A lot of people don't have a problem being called sir, and others do. So whatever the ref decides at the beginning of the game is what we should all go by.
Hey, Amanda, it's Luann.
Hi, Luann.
From back in the day, since everybody defaulted to sir, and then they would be sir, man, and basically generally just wanted to calm down and not hurt themselves. So I decided that, well, in the Star Trek universe, all officers are referred to as sir. So in the future, that would be a gender neutral term. So I've been using that for over 20 years.
Yeah, I was the same when I refed. I was just like, don't worry about it. Just call me sir. So, but not saying that's right or for everybody. So.
Hey, Amanda, it's Kat.
Hi, Kat.
I was wondering if everyone in the group has their preferred pronouns next to their name, or if they've shared their preferred pronouns with the rest of the group, so everyone can better address each other.
Some of our members do have their preferred pronouns on their Zoom profile. I know I do. I don't know if it's showing up right now. Yeah, and I know some of them do, but some of them don't. And honestly, it wasn't a big thing between us as a group. When I lead education classes and nobody knows each other, I do typically open with that. And I think that's a great idea. And probably when I did my next group, I would open with that as well for the WPL. So.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Any other comments? We good? Cool. This is what our weekly schedule looks like. So it's 10 weeks and it's pretty tight. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday end up being travel days and match days. We do play games on Sundays as well as Saturdays. There's no real formula, just depends. Sunday and Monday, I will spend at the computer downloading games from teams. Sometimes it needs shrank and spliced and cut and whatever, so that can be time consuming. I do all of that for the refs so that they don't have to. And then uploading into Advantage, that's on me too. The refs themselves will do their match review, and I can show you what that looks like in a bit. Mondays and Tuesdays, usually the ref is working. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, the reviewer is working. Then they'll have a meeting together where they chat, and then the referee separately also probably has a meeting with their own coach. That's outside of our process. They will agree on clips. The clips get dropped in the folder. Then we run our team meetings on Thursdays at 9 p.m. just before I fall asleep and go to bed. Friday, I wake up, I put together the notes from the meeting, upload the meeting into Advantage, and send the wrap-up email, which sounds simple, but always takes way longer than it should. And then we're starting again with match prep for the upcoming week. All right, so let's just, so all of our work is done in Advantage, which I mentioned. Game plans and individual performance plans are in there. And then the game plan for the matchup coming, then the stats will be populated. Team coach comments go in there. Let's see if I can get out of this. I can show you. There we go. Let's see. All right. So most people are probably familiar with Advantage, but for those who aren't, this is what it looks like. And the referee will tag the playlist. Tags will look like that. One of the good things about the WPL is we get pretty decent video most of the time. When the coaches comment, it looks like this. So the coaches can go into Advantage and they can comment. So this red comment with home beside it, this coach is asking if this penalty was material. And then this is me in light blue, and I'm saying, nah, we can play through this one. Referee's in green and the reviewer is in dark blue. So this coach actually had a few things to say. So this is kind of what it looks like. This was an interesting one because both the referee and the reviewer had marked this call for holding on as incorrect. The home coach also wanted to know why it was called holding on when there was no clear release by the tackler. So I just said, yeah, we didn't meet our agreed upon standard. Sometimes you just get them wrong, right? And then here he wanted to know who was offside. I was like, yeah, he is offside. He is liable to penalty. The ref could have played through it though. So yeah, that's kind of what that process looks like. Sometimes the coaches prefer to call and have a conversation and go through the game with me. And sometimes they just like to drop things on the playlist. Probably depends on how much time they have available, or maybe just what kind of person they are and what's easiest for them.
Hey
Cindy.
Amanda, it's Kat.
Kat.
I'm not sure if you mentioned it. Can the team coaches see the comments by the referee and the reviewer?
I did not mention it, and no, the team coach will only see that something has been clipped. So they'll see at 1:27 there was a general, and the referee and reviewer thought it was green. So they wouldn't be able to read good movement, position, a series of breakdowns. So they can see something is tagged, they cannot see the comments. But when they make their own clip and they have their little red comment, they'll see whatever anybody answers here inside their comment.
They can see whatever is up top in the text.
What do you mean?
The summaries, what the referee does in description, that they
The
can't.
report page,
Yes.
yes, they can see the whole report page. That is correct. So this front page of the review, everything written here can be seen and read. So, thanks, Tig. And then to just give you an idea of what it looks like when we have a call, we will go through all of these clips. The meeting video lives right here, so if anybody wants to look at that afterwards, they can come. That's where it's housed. That's pretty much it with that I can think of that I was going to talk about. Okay.
How common is it for, I'm sorry, this is Rob. How
Hi,
common
Rob.
is it, hey, for the coaches to provide feedback within advantage, out of curiosity?
I would say once every 2 weeks, I'll get a coach who decides to clip something in advantage. Once every 3 to 4 weeks, I've got a coach showing up at a call. Let's see. So we're in week 8. I bet 3 out of the 8 weeks we've had a coach show up. And when they show up to the call, then they bring the clip with them and they want it talked about in front of the whole group. So that's sort of like a level up from just clipping it in advantage and leaving it for me to make a response to it.
Cool
And
beans.
then, yeah, and then there's the lowest level, which is where they just call me up and they're like, hey, can you take a look at 2922 and let me know what happened here? So 3 different layers of visibility, I guess.
Appreciate it.
Sure thing. Okay, so I kind of mentioned it before, but the beauty of the WPL is a referee can get multiple matches across in a short period of time that are very similar. The speed of play in the WPL is very predictable. And so it makes it easy for referees to know what they're going to get, and then they can adjust what they're doing. So it's very nice to get the same thing week in and week out over the course of this short season, and then to have video week after week that is very watchable and reviewable. So to me, I think it's great from a development perspective. So what are the pieces of referee development and what are we doing? Well, everybody has an IPP that they work out with their coach, and that's like a year-long concept of what their reality is, what success looks like, and then 2 to 3 focus areas, 2 to 3 things that they're really working on over the course of the year. Then the next piece is their game plan. And so that's in a blueprint for the match that's coming up this week. So, whatever, Jenny Lou is doing North Shore versus Beantown, and she's specifically trying to make sure she's getting the tackler out. So what is she doing there? She knows Beantown malls. How's she going to handle that? So that game plan then makes the basis for what the reviewer is focusing on when they review the game. The IPP is this overarching piece that the coach that they're working with over the course of the year is focusing on. So our WPL reviewers are just looking at what were you working on in this game and how did you do with that? And then how did your performance in this game fit into our agreed upon standards for the WPL? And then the last piece of ref development is deliberate practice. That's another piece that they would work on with their coach who falls outside of our system. Deliberate practice can be anything from going to the local club and running lines with them. It can be cone work. It can be mental practice. It can be, all kinds of stuff, right? Okay. Any questions about the development and how WPL works with that? So the calls are a big feature. everybody shows up for all of the calls when you agree to be part of the group, whether you're working that week or not, you're going to be on the call. Because that's part of our community and you want to be there. It's fun. On the calls, the 4 referees who refed will talk. They each get probably 10 minutes. They're going to go over their personal goals, what they are working on with their coach, any game prep or development. They're going to tell us if their match had any of the focus area items from preseason. So, you know, I don't know, intentional knock-ons, and there were 3 in my game, and we really need to pay attention to getting the tackler out, stuff like that. Any trend in the match that everybody else needs to be aware of. So Life West keeps pulling down the mall, you guys. We're gonna have to do something. I hope you can ref it better next week. Team coaches are gonna show up to the calls, and again, they're gonna bring their clips and they're gonna bring their law questions, and then I wrap up the calls with, I watched all 4 matches. These were the trends I saw for the group this week. Questions about how the calls work? This is just an example of my wrap up. This is literally pulled from week 6, where I felt like as a group, all of the 4 refs were calling advantage and then kind of not working hard to make sure advantage worked out. So there was a comment about that. We had some issues with ARs that week, apparently. And I said, you know, can we add into our pre-match brief, whatever the issue was. And then we need to be better at filtering input that we get from our ARs, because we're taking too much and we're calling things we might not have called otherwise. And then I let them know they set a good standard at the tackler. And that's a big work on for me this year is in my feedback form, somebody pointed out I was not doing a good job of remembering the positive and the good things the group was doing. And I was focusing more on the things we needed to improve upon. So that was a takeaway for me in like week 1 or 2 to make sure that I bring positive stuff to the table too. Yeah, so that's the wrap ups. Yeah, and then the last piece of the wrap up, I update all of the clips. So if you go back into a WPL call clip, usually you can see what we talked about on the call and what the outcome was. And I've just dropped that into a comment. So I don't like it when you go in and you look at clips and you're like, well, what was the right answer? I don't know what the right answer was. So I dropped the right answer in for everybody to see. And what else? Oh, the emails to the coaches. We can look at one of those just to give you an idea. These go out to, so they go out to the refs and to the coaches, and some teams are like, hey, this is our referee person, make sure you CC this person. These go to everybody in the performance pathways, the pathways group. Yep. So this is kind of what that looks like. The meeting video is linked, the meeting clips are linked, and the call survey is linked. If there was anything I need them to go to, I link it in this email. So this must have been one of the early weeks. Video on relative velocity, go watch that, because our forward pass philosophy in the league is if it's not clearly forward, then it was backwards. So we talked about lineouts, the long arm transfer, leaving the line out. Here's some videos of that, intentional knock-ons, and then good luck to our refs this week. So it's pretty much some version of that every week. And then they all get archived on a shared drive where the refs can go back to them if they need to. Okay, yep, that's about that. So that's our whole process in a nutshell from beginning to end. And then trends from this season. We've had a lot of comments from teams about referee positioning. And we ourselves have looked at a lot of video pieces about referee positioning. It's interesting because the teams have brought us a couple of clips or clipped things where the refs, standing where if the scrum half had just moved to pass the ball, the ref would have taken one step forward and would have been completely out of the passing lane. So it ended up to where I just told the coaches, go ahead and make your move, make the pass. Ref's going to move. Then we've had a lot of stuff about lineouts, obstruction, leaving the line out, setting up lineouts correctly. Of course, the walking into the lineout has plagued us at the beginning of the season. I think we've almost gotten that out now, week 8. Intentional knock-ons have been our bugaboo. It's not been we've not been consistent at all. We haven't carded most of the things we should have carded. Some of them are just being knock-ons instead of penalties. We talk about it nearly every week, I think. It's definitely going to come up again this week, even though I think 2 weeks ago, week 6, maybe week 7, I gave the big cheer. I was like, you guys, we had a week where it was perfect. It was wonderful. We got them all right. And here we are, week 8, and we're going to talk about them again. Strangely enough, we're doing pretty well with the breakdown, but arguably the hardest part of the game to referee. And I feel like we're doing as well as can be expected there. And the scrums are going very well this season too. But a lot of the top players are missing from the league. So I think that's making the scrums easier than they normally are. Tig, I see you have a question.
Yeah, could you expand it? I'm sort of surprised that intentional knock-ons is such a problem. I know in some of the other leagues, the penalty yellow card boundary ends up as a discussion point, but it isn't very often that there's disagreement on whether or not it's a penalty. That I can't think of that happening too often.
So I know 2 of the instances, maybe even 3, the referee was unsighted and had to go to the AR.
Oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a judgment issue. It was just whether it got seen, and the ARs are not the best people for that usually.
Yeah, and that conversation, and then how to have that conversation, and then how to have that conversation more effectively was discussed. We also had 1 or 2 where, it's like, oh, well, it was 2 hands, and it's like, well, we don't care if it was 2 hands. We only care if they couldn't regather it. So just reiterating, like, this is the standard, and then getting everyone on that page. Yeah.
And the positioning issue was strictly as whether or not the referee was in the way, not a function of, or were they trying to comment on whether the referee should be there to judge the game, or is just the ref was in their way?
Oh, the ref was in their way. Yeah. And we had a couple of clips.
The scrum halves know that most refs are okay for that to be a conversation, not to get upset about it, just ask them to move.
And I think that's the difference, right? Is sometimes players aren't comfortable having that conversation, and some of the referees that they're exposed to are very authoritarian. And when you've been smacked down for having those conversations, which is pretty reasonable to ask somebody to get out of your way, I think, if you're trying to play a game.
Okay.
Yeah, then you're just less likely to do it. Yeah, we watched a couple of clips where the team changed their pattern of play because the ref was there, and I was like, "Don't do that. Just go right into them. You'll get the ball back if we interrupt your thing, right?"
Okay.
So
okay, I mean, was that then part of the conversation with the refs, that letting the scrum half know that that's an okay conversation, that's not challenging a call?
yeah, and Haley Aguiar
That's an okay
actually,
conversation.
yeah, and Haley Aguiar told the All Blues coach that we don't want to be there. We don't want to be in your way. That is the worst thing ever. When I see it on video, I'm embarrassed, and it's horrible. And please help us be not in your way.
All right, but you understand why I was kind of surprised that. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So that's kind of the stuff that's come up over and over this season, and what we've been working with. So. That's all I've got for you. What kind of questions do you guys have? Okay.
Hello, this is Abby. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Abby.
Hey, I have a question about Advantage. I'm new to learning about that whole system. Is that something that I can download on my own accord and make an account and do on my own?
Yes, you can. And if you send me an email, I will help you. You actually already have an account because you are a member of USA Rugby and signed up with the Referee Society.
Awesome. Yes, I will email you about that.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Nick,
Hey, Amanda, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, thanks. I'm wondering the interaction with the coaches. Do you think that it's been a positive? First of all, has it been positive from a manager's perspective? Secondly, do you think it eases the tension with the referees on the field? And do you think that the referees appreciate that the coaches have a voice? And do you think that the coaches appreciate it?
I think that the coaches appreciate it because, I mean, they seem to say that they do. And I think, sometimes after a game, they're very emotional and they're very frustrated with something. And sometimes they just need someone to hear that they're frustrated about it. And the other thing with the WPL is it's collaborative to the point where, like, they need to know if we've called something wrong or if they need to change their game plan, right? So that part of the process works very well when I can be like, yes, this is how it will always be refereed, or no, this wasn't done to standard. I'm sorry, we've reviewed it, we're working on it. It seems to be going well. I wouldn't change it. Sometimes it's awkward. It's not always fun. But I do think it's the right thing to do for the players and to get the ultimate product that we want. So I don't know.
Just one real quick follow up. Do you think that do you get positive feedback from the referees, or is it?
I'm sure some of my referees are on the call and they can answer. Jenny, are you there and are you listening? Marty?
Yeah, hey, all this is Marty. Or Jenny, take it over.
Oh no, I got disconnected. I missed the question. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, no, Nick was just asking if we've received positive feedback if the referees receive any positive feedback from the coaches. Do they like that they can come to me with problems? Like, do the coaches find that useful? Does it relieve any pressure on you as referees?
Yeah, I think it's just an avenue. I think that the coaches feel pretty comfortable approaching you, and they actually have, in my experience, have felt comfortable coming to me and saying like, oh, I would have liked to seen XYZ, or I liked the breakdown, or just giving direct feedback. So I think they are happy to have a manager who's an open line of communication. Yep.
Marty, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, hi all. This is Marty. I think Jenny hit the nail on the head. I think that you being a resource to all the coaches really helps the league really grow and develop. So we all are painting the same picture regarding all of the little items that make up a rugby match.
Yeah, thank you. Haven't had any negative feedback about it so far, so we'll see. Keep doing what we're doing as long as they're gonna want to invest in the program.
Margaret has a question.
Margie, what's up?
Hey, I love the aspects of the team perspective that is there, and the culture and the connection with the coaches. And if this isn't an appropriate forum for the question, we can talk later. I'm wondering, how would you see some of these same techniques applied at an LRO level to help combat referee abuse?
I definitely think, and that's part of why we wanted to open this program up to everybody so that you could kind of see how it worked, because I mean, I think it's applicable. you know, but it's about changing a mindset around match officials, right? Because, you know, there's been a combative, don't come at me type of attitude for many, many years. And we are completely flipping that on its head and trying to say, we're all working together to make the game better. Yeah, and it's different and it's weird. And in the beginning, like in 2018, I don't think one coach said one word to me. And then in 2019, they started talking a little bit more. And then this year, we're seeing a lot more collaboration. This cat's gonna sit here and meow and not leave the room. So, yeah, no, I do think it's possible. So.
Cool.
Sure.
Oh, I'm gonna pick your brain later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. If that's it, it was wonderful to see everybody's face. And everybody have a great evening. Hey, Maggie, what's up?
I was just going to say thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Hey, sure thing, anytime.
So,
All
hey,
right.
this,
Thank you
Amanda,
much.
Amanda, thank you so much for doing this. And I really appreciate you talking about it. Thanks to everybody who showed up. And the recording will be made available later. We'll stick it in the referee workbook.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Amanda.
Great job, Mandy.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thank you, Amanda.